good morning. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be, whatever it is there. Today is March 20th, 2025, and we are so pleased to have Barbara Sunderland Manousso, if I pronounce your name correctly, sorry, thank you, Manousso with us today, and she will be talking to us about just different musings that she has, and we will, of course, all learn something. It's wonderful to have you here. I will tell you a little bit about Barbara's background in a moment, but first, the part that my co-moderator, Jeff Kachavin, loves so much when he's here, is hearing the amount of donations that we know of or we've been told about to food banks around the world since this program was first founded by Natalie Armstrong Moton in the spring. Actually, we're like a 5-year mark almost, the beginning of May, I think. Okay, so Natalie, what's our running total so far?
Hey, Jean, thanks very much. And thank you, Dr. Manousso, for joining us. We have been told about $702,036.21 in donations, which is an unbelievable number. Thank you all so much for your generosity. If you make a donation, big or small, please DM us, email us, call us, text us, let us know, and we will happily add your donation to our running total.
That's truly amazing. That's what, 7-8 million meals maybe served, maybe more, depending on the buying power of the particular food banks. So that's fantastic. Thank you. So Dr. Manousso, she is coming to us from the East Coast of the United States, and she is, let's see here, I'm sorry, I'm looking up your bio, and now I lost it. Well, Doctor, could I leave it to you to tell us a little bit about your background? Would that be okay with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Today I'm in Houston, Texas. We also have an office in Newport, Rhode Island, but today we're in Houston. And I've been mediating and arbitrating since 1993, and we've been training since 1994. So we're very happy to feel a worldwide presence. And my undergraduate degree is from Brown University, which is under a lot of stress right now with some of the political issues. And my master's degree is in public health, and my doctorate is in conflict analysis and resolution. And I attended South Texas College of Law. So that's my background, and I'm delighted to talk about elder and adult care because this is an area of focus that I find very satisfying, and it's particularly interesting because people might only need it once in their lifetime. And that one time in their life that they need elder and adult care uh, is very impactful, not just for the person who might be the object of the conversation, but the children, the neighbors, the friends, the network, that's the bubble around people. And it is just a very humane and a very satisfying opportunity. So that's why I am excited today to tell you about the elder and adult care mediation. It's not divorce or child custody. And of course, divorce and child custody, that's an important part of mediation that a lot of people are knowledgeable about because it's more in the venue of people within an age group, usually. We do have our gray divorces that are people that are older, but it's that is more in the mainstream of when people are socializing, they're working, so people hear about divorce, child custody. They might not be as tuned into elder and adult care, and when they get in a situation where they need it, not everybody's always aware of it. So it's a wonderful marketing tool, and it's a wonderful opportunity for mediators to have this in their quiver of opportunities and skill set. So the intent of elder and adult care mediation is to provide a family a conversation that they probably haven't had before, or maybe they have, and it hasn't worked out very well. Siblings sometimes have different roles in the family. They usually have different roles in the family, and they develop an interaction with each other depending on where they're born in the birth uh, order. If are they the firstborn, that they might be the family champion. Were they the baby of the family? Were they the middle child? Were they the 11-year-old that was bullied by one of the other siblings in the family? Was there a dynamic of the birth order or of the parents where they were in their life at the time, how they treat each child? Sometimes the first child gets a lot of attention. The second child, if they walk off the end of a diving board, they'll float. And if they, and sometimes the baby of the family gets coddled and it gets to go places and do things that they would never let the first, second, or third child do. So the parents' response to their children, the children's response to their siblings, and then, of course, as families grow, people's socials grow, um, people develop families that are outside the bloodline that are very important to the family. Um, and and so elder and adult care is a very broad base, impacts a lot of people, and is a very, very, again, I can't emphasize enough, satisfying form of mediation that, again, people might only need to use once in their life, but when they do, it uh, really has a trajectory of confidence and a trajectory of relationships that can sustain themselves and continue without shutting down, closing down, or people saying, oh, I hate my brother, I hate my sister. And you don't want to hear that. These are this is an opportunity for us to use all our skills that we learn for high conflict, low conflict, confused conflict, and make where decisions that are folded into a plan can be very sustainable. So this was something in the Houston Chronicle many years ago, and the mother says to her son, it feels good to be home. And the son says, Mom, I wanted to talk to you about that. And she's, what? He said, we were wondering if it's wise for you to keep living here by yourself. And she snaps back at him and says, this is probably Pam's doing. Are you saying that my days as an adult are over and that you want to take care of me like a baby? And he says, of course not, Mom. But if you keep falling down like you've been, we're going to have to put in a dedicated line for 9/11. So this is a very typical scenario that plays out in families all over the country. These are the same people that perhaps have they 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 live a good life, they have good jobs, they're professional, and their parents might be professional, and often the father dies first. That's a sad statistic, but often the care is being provided for the mother or the mom. And in this case, I think you can probably all guess who Pam is the daughter-in-law. The son can do no wrong, but the daughter-in-law must be the one that's trying to put mom away. So there's a lot of suspicion in families. I had a couple that we were working with. The son had been his parents' CPA for 30, 40 years, ever since he had been a CPA. And now that they could see that the father had passed on, but the mother was very frail and was needing some assisted living, and probably a little bit more than even assisted living. All of a sudden, they didn't want the the brother to be taking care of the monies. And they wanted to know where the monies were, how much there was. And people get very odd when the pot of gold starts getting closer to them, and they start becoming suspicious of each other in ways that are kind of sad sometimes. And this is a fun clip, so sit back and enjoy for a minute.
And every mom grows old.
There is old.
Gordon Hockheiser was no exception. Now his story can be told.
Old.
His mom was pushing 90. How she carried on.
I fell down, Gordon. Why get wet?
And so we find poor Gordon, alas, alack, oh, woe.
Something has got to be done. What do you want me to do, Gordon? I'm going to put her in a...
Trying to control the urge to put her in awe.
You don't put your mother in a home. Where's Papa? The story of Gordon Hockheiser, a young man torn between his love for mother and the urge to kill her. Sid, you have 10 minutes. If you're not here by then, I'm throwing her out the window.
You can torture her and beat her. Get a dog and let her beat her.
You have the right to remain silent and refuse to answer any questions.
But never put your mother in a home.
Going to put my mother in a home, Mother?
How many people do you have here?
73, I don't know, maybe 72. I don't know, I didn't check all the rooms yet. Sometimes they go in the middle of the night and I don't get a chance to find out about it till the morning.
You can dress like a gorilla if you think that it will kill her.
Gordon, you almost scared me to death.
Almost doesn't count.
But never put your mother in.
No trouble, just sleep anywhere. He told you I ain't got no room. He drove her all the way out here. Can you check the leaves now? Can't you see I'm serving luncheon?
Respect for the request that this old woman be sentenced to spend the rest of her natural life locked in a toilet.
You can seal her in her tomb. But never put your mother in a home. Put your mother in a
Yes. Hey, yo. Who are looks? Who shake your ass?
Where's Papa? Starring George Siegel, Ruth Gordon, Ron Liebman, Vish Vandergeldenmeer. And remember, Where's Papa contains the uncut tush scene, a scene so memorable it has been made into a commemorative stamp.
So there you go. And that is some of the conversation that the parents sometimes don't want to feel that they have to leave their home. And the children feel guilt, they feel anxiety, they feel all kinds of things. And they're not sure what their options are, how they can provide and put their parent into a safe place. And what some people don't understand is when you have children, you are the guardian of the parents or the guardian of the children. When the children become adults and their parents become in a vulnerable senior age, and senior has a lot of different numbers or markers. It could be 50, which is when you get your AARP magazine. It could be 55 when you have senior housing. That's just for seniors that have no children for senior housing. And then 60 is another age of seniors. 62 is when some people can start to have, what's happening? I'm getting an echo here. Some people get an opportunity to take their Social Security, some Social Security. 65 is the big marker for Medicare and Social Security, and for some of the younger ones now, probably 67, and it's probably going to be pushed up to 70. So you have an arc of a generation between 50 and 70 as to what is a senior. But a responsibility of a child for a senior is just as important as the parent is for the child until the child turns 18. And so if a parent is vulnerable in any way, they're not fed, they are living in bad conditions, they don't have a home. These are all responsibilities that do fall on the children. And a responsible family, of course, wants to make sure that their parents have comfort, that they have food, shelter, and their proper care for medicine, and they can have a good quality of life. And now people can expect probably to live into their 80s, 90s very comfortably. And there's quite a group now of people that live over 100. I expect to live to over 100 with my 19-year-old lover, but that's another story, and I'll tell that another time. But what we're looking for is what you can do as a mediator and to understand the dynamics and the market that is so special, where you can make a very positive impact. It's for a lot of people, they don't want their monies, they don't want their health conditions, they don't want anything to become public. And so mediation offers them the opportunity to stay out of a public courtroom, and it gives them an opportunity to have to make decisions and to make a plan that is private. So the parties make their own solution instead of a court making a solution for people they really don't know and don't have a benefit for. And so the process is so beneficial. And I'm going to talk when I get near the end of the presentation, some of the opportunities and ways of using the mediation process and using other conflict management skills to complement it as well. So it has a very much an art and a science to the elder and adult care family, if you want to just call it family mediation. So a lot of people would feel uncomfortable calling in a mediator or taking something that feels legal. You'll hear the kids say, I'm going to sue them. I'm getting a lawyer. Well, what are you going to sue them for? What does that look like? And where's the benefit? You're going to lock heads with your siblings. Why not, as you can take this to mediation, have a conversation and have a result that's going to be private and a blueprint that you can work together on, it's a shared vision. Instead of you bouncing off each other, use that energy and consolidate it into a tapestry of goodwill for your parents. And everybody has a different dynamic with their parents and with their siblings. Some are stronger, some are weaker, some are regretful, some are angry, some are happy, some are fond. But we're looking for a way to help the family consolidate all of those feelings and make it a business-like, if you will, or make it even more personal with benefits of a business plan. So that's what we're looking at in adult care and mediation. And when people call, it's something that can be done rather immediate. You don't have to wait for it to go through a court system. It could be months. A lot of the issues that people have are just like in the little cartoon, when the one parent maybe starts falling a lot, they might have lost their keys a lot. Some neighbor comes in and realizes they've left the stove on again with no pan on the stove, or somebody's taking a car out to the grocery store on a regular basis and they're noticing it's coming back with more dents every time. So something is off. And so you don't have months or 6 months or a year to take this through a court system to make some solution. But in mediation, you can do it. And you can even, if somebody calls me on a Monday, we might even have a mediation on that weekday, or usually they like a Saturday or a Sunday is a good time to do it. And I like Sunday afternoon. People often go to a religious program, they have a lunch, and then they come in for mediation, and then they can stay from 1, 2 o'clock till 6 or 7. And then hopefully they'll even find a way that maybe after the mediation, they can admire their MSA and break bread together and continue talking to each other. And that, of course, is at the essence of what our program is. And it's very inexpensive. If you go to court, everybody knows, especially in this group, courts can be expensive. Lawyers are expensive, and I'm not knocking lawyers. They are a very crucial part of the elder and adult care mediation process because they provide the legal framework. But if you're just hiring a sword, which happens, and we know this happens in divorce as well, it can be very costly. And often a family is already stressed or stretched with their monies, and the senior might not have extra monies to provide. So the mediation process, usually a one-time, is rather inexpensive. And it is divided among, you want everybody that comes in, and you want everybody to come in to divide the monies. So everybody has skin in the game, but it's still a negligible amount compared to what it would be if somebody were hiring attorneys. And then it's not just the expense of the dollar, but it's the expense of the time and the emotional distress of a court process versus, again, we use the words conversation even more than mediation, just so that people can relate to it a little bit better. People know what a conversation is, but when you say mediation, that sounds very legalese and makes people feel sometimes uncomfortable to participate. And especially for seniors who don't like to sometimes put their situations out there in front of other people, this is a very effective way for them to keep their privacy and to keep their story within their home, in a sense, without it being dissected by a legal system. And the outcome, of course, of a mediation, as we all know, is that the parties are the ones who find the solution. And a judge, you could have legal points, but a judge is just going to base a decision on those legal points. And it might not reflect the values or the interaction or the dynamics that the family might have articulated, might not have articulated, but they have a chance to incorporate all the distress and all the other things that have maybe brought them to the point that they haven't had their own conversation, that they need to bring in a third party neutral. And a lot of seniors especially will respond better when they are responding to a third party. If the doctor tells them to do something, you can hear a senior say, well, the doctor told me to X, Y, and Z. If the brother-in-law says you should do this, they're, but the doctor, and they'll often lean in, and you can see it at the meetings. It makes me want to smile sometimes. You can see the parties lean in, and it's doctor said to do this and to do that. So, and not having the judge be the one who makes the outcome, the parties have that opportunity to be able to come to their own decisions and to move forward. So and they can incorporate all these dynamics. There's a lot of dynamics a mediator never uncovers in mediation. We're not there to watch a soap opera. We're not there to fix the family. We're there to help the family communicate. And there's a huge difference in that. Of course, as an elder and adult care mediator, you want to be very attuned to your ethical standards. And as is always important, to do no harm. And to do no harm, you want to make sure that you're qualified to be an elder and adult care mediator. And the standard pretty much worldwide is that people will have 40 hours of basic, because most areas, most states, cities, states, and countries expect at least 40 hours of basic mediation to do any mediation. And then they would also have the ability and qualification of family training. In Texas, you have to have family training to do anything with a family. And that's pretty common around the world as well. And then the adult and elder mediation training is another 20 hours. And a lot of this has been established by some of the senior elder and elder mediation groups, and especially through the Association for Conflict Resolution, who has an elder and adult care section. And we're fortunate in Texas also to have an organization of monthly lectures with one of our students, actually. She carries the banner for us and coordinates lectures on different areas of adult care, whether talking about finances, legal aspects, housing, new legislation. So you do want to be informed. This isn't something you just go out and do and say, well, I'm a mediator. I'll go do this family mediation, because you could do harm to the family. You want to make sure you have the ability and the qualifications. And also, you want to use the proper mediation process. And unfortunately, a lot of times now we see in mediation, negotiated settlement. The parties are just put in separate rooms and somebody runs between the rooms. That's not really what the ethical standards of mediation were designed to incorporate. They are, mediation was where parties got together. They have a chance to communicate with each other, and the mediator's role is to help the parties communicate. Not that you might not caucus or have a separate meeting with the parties, and then they come back together and they make a proposal to each other. But a proper mediation process is even more important in the elder and adult care mediation arena. And also to understand that the family, again, knows a lot of things that have happened to their background. They have dynamics that we could never uncover, nor should we want to uncover within the mediation process. We're there to help them communicate with a quasi-business model of helping them move forward and to develop a blueprint, which would be the mediated settlement agreement, which is a legally binding document. And then if somebody doesn't follow the contract or the agreement that is legally binding, then they could, if they wanted to take a breach of contract. But we hope that people don't have to go that far, that they have worked it out so that the family has brought to the table what their needs are, understanding their family dynamics. Every family has dynamics, and there is a correction to a certain point for the bullied child, the one who's maybe too silent, the person who has always been the champion of the family, who did all the talking for all the other siblings. This is an opportunity for them to stand back a little bit and to hear their other siblings and understand their family dynamics, understand who their siblings have become. It's sometimes shocking at some of these mediations that somebody will know that their sister or brother is a doctor or a nurse, let's say, and they don't even know where they work, how they work, what if they specialize in something, or they know there was they teach. I think they teach. Where did they teach at a school? Did they teach at a college? Did they teach at a in a workplace setting? But people don't know their siblings. And but some of that is their dynamics, but you as the role of the mediator are there to help them take this information and transcend it to that MSA, understanding their family dynamics. And again, we're not there to fix the family. That's very important to be aware of. We're not there to fix the family. But we do want to make sure that they are in control of their result, which will be a legally binding document. And we're going to talk about some of the other things that we bring into the process, because in this process, the mediator, again, it's an art and a science. It's not as cut and dry as a divorce. I think so many people do divorce mediation, it gets into a formula. There is no one formula for elder and adult care. It offers a lot of flexibility, and again, that's where you are into the opportunities that are manyfold, and you need to be trained so that you can be aware of what types of pieces of information need to be provided, not inserted, but provided for family to make an option on. And here we go with one more.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail out.
Listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just
Don't.
Try to see things now. Keep on.
So you can see what dynamics in a family might be. I think that's a wonderful clip that shows it. And again, the role of the mediator is not to fix it, but to help them work around and incorporate and look at opportunities to make their own decisions. And again, we already said earlier that it's a private and confidential opportunity, and it's not on public record. And that's very, very important for a lot of people. They don't want their monies out there. They don't want their information out there. They especially in a certain age group, and if you know the different levels of names that are branding now that's put on different age groups. We're at the end of the builders age group, which are the people that were from World War II, Korean War. Now they've kind of slid up into the Vietnam War. So that age group was very private. They wouldn't talk about what their family issues are. And so they certainly don't want it on public record, nor would they be receptive to being in a process that would expose them to any public record or venue. And this is what happens at the table sometimes. When the reason that the parties have gotten to where they are, have gotten to the table, that they've needed a mediation, what brought them to the table is that they just don't speak up. And then they just get mad instead of speaking up. So again, sit back. There's a quick little.
C'est pour déjeuner, monsieur. Je recommandais le plateau de fruits de mer. Oui. Oui. Plateau de fruits de mer.
So you can see what happens sometimes within a family. It's the same concept. I love Mr. Bean. I think it just brings a smile and but it also brings a lesson and it brings a memory to the lesson that as mediator, you don't want to make somebody just go along and feel like they're just part of a train and just do it. And because they're just too polite to say what's really going on or how they really feel, because that's how they've been conditioned, that's how they've been brought up through their family, but they're not happy and they might have some wisdom. He could have had a lovely meal in a nice restaurant like that he thoroughly enjoyed if he only spoke up. But it's the mediator's job is to help people to speak up and to find that comfort zone that they can speak up and not to feel like they're being prevented from talking or that they just have to be kind to the family champion or somebody in the family just to be to feel that they're neutral. And often people feel that they need to be neutral, just not to rock the ship in a family. Whenever you've got a close group of people, it's like a workplace. That's like that's a family situation also. You've got people who need to be together, want to be together, have a common cause to be together, and want to find something as a solution so that they can remain comfortable and not have to dissolve or to remove themselves from their family program. And that's the same thing with this. And so as mediator, our whole goal is to have a win-win situation. A win-win can be 20-80, 30-70, 60-40. It doesn't matter. But a win-win, as long as everybody has brought something to the table and they feel that they have made a contribution and they have brought it to a where even they can validate what somebody else says, but as long as that's in their heart and their head, they have a win-win situation, as opposed to a win-lose. That doesn't feel as good. And that's more of a court system, is a winner or a loser. And so again, that's the opportunity for the mediation to have the feeling and the responsibility of a win-win. So in the elder and adult care mediation, there is a dynamic that's a little different also. When you're doing a divorce, you have a couple, a man and a woman usually. Now it can be varied as well, but it's probably two people with similar ideas, maybe similar age groups, similar generations, and they might not have children. If they have children, then that's kind of a standard vision as well, depending if they're under 18, over 18. But in elder and adult care mediation, you're looking at not only similarities, but some families might be, the siblings might be a generation apart. You could have 14, 15, 16, 20 years between the oldest and the youngest. That's a huge generational difference. The parents also that raise those children have a different reaction to them because they were going through their own growth spurt, employment wise, physically wise, marriage wise, as their relationship with the marriage. So you have neighbors that maybe have lived next door to somebody for 50, 60 years. They're as much family as the children are. These are people that are closely involved. Or your children are also seniors. The senior that you're often talking about is in their 80s, but the family might be 60s, 50s, 60s themselves. So you're looking at multi-generational, you're looking at different occupations, you're looking at different levels of education. So the table and the parties in the elder and adult care mediation is going to be quite different. And these are some of the issues. I'm not going to read them. You can see them. But there's multiple issues with multiple parties. And the whole concept is that you want to have a self-determination and to help the senior, help them not only be supported by their family in a practical way, but that they can feel that they are part of the solution, that they aren't the problem, that they're able to help make a decision, not where they keep falling down and they're putting themselves in a vulnerable place, making the children look bad that they're not taking care of their parent. So there is a different lens that we're looking at. Often mediation is not the end point. A senior might need to make some changes in a housing situation, but that's an opportunity for the mediator to help them talk with resources in a community to help them see what their options are, what this could cost, and also to help them with all their end of life planning, which people sometimes avoid wanting to discuss. But when it's done in a way that is facilitated by a third party, it doesn't feel as personal in a sense. They feel that they are not just bringing up, well, I want to talk about my death today. They have to talk about it because somebody's allowing them to do it. So it kind of tips the scale a little bit and makes it a little bit more convenient. So there are so many decisions that have to be made as people age or become involved with health issues or financial issues. And mediation is the way that can give them all an opportunity to be part of the solution. And also, sometimes it's even the caregivers. One person might be the caregiver of the parents and they're living in the home. And if the parent dies, what happens? Are they going to want to take the home away from them? Are they going to want to, where are they going to live? So the pictures often is much bigger. What happens to the furnishings? What happens to the family clock or the beat up old chair that everybody grew up in? These are the things that have emotional attachment and that have an opportunity for conversation. And sometimes even guardianship needs to be addressed. And guardianship is really clamping down on somebody's opportunities. So guardianship is by having mediation, you might be able to avoid something like guardianship by being able to divvy up the needs of somebody and to keep them more into a secular process where people can move forward as a team. And these are some of the hybrid processes that also are part of the art and science of elder and adult care. And sometimes just the family needs coaching, and they might meet with a mediator on a one-on-one, almost in the role of an ombudsman, but conflict coaching, where they have an opportunity to talk and hear themselves say some of their distress out loud. That's very therapeutic for people. This isn't therapy, but it's therapeutic in the sense that they articulate what the real problem. They're just afraid their parent's going to get hurt. Well, what does that look like? What could be solutions? And meeting with everybody sometimes is important before, or just meeting with a senior and then having a mediation with their siblings, or excuse me, their children later, can be very beneficial. Another tool we've used is pre-meeting talking points. And I'll ask the children to write down what is important to them as they go forward with their parent. What are they worried about? What are their concerns? What would they like to see fixed? Or what would they like to see resolved? And they can do this at home. They do it in their pajamas. They can have a glass of wine. They can stay up to 1, 2 in the morning, but they have to put it in writing. It's another way of articulating, not just with something spinning around in their head. And when they come to the mediation, I never look at their talking points because they maybe have already resolved it just by getting them out earlier and being able to move on. And then, of course, what we try to do is use a mix of interest and rights-based negotiations. So, what would you like to do, and what is provided for you that you can do? And those two are sometimes the conversation, and that is the hot point that meets that really it carries on the rest of the conversation. And people will see either this or that, and they don't see it to get to the point where the conversation can go forward. And that's one of the strengths of the mediator in the family. And they can also know that if they get to the end of a story and they can't make a decision as a family, they have an option to bring in another person, not the same mediator. Yeah, if you do, but arbitration is available to them, and it might not be everything they talked about. There might be one item that they just can't, as a family, come to a decision about, but they can both tell their show their reason for where they think they have the best idea to an arbitrator. And again, the mediator is never the arbitrator. That'd be a separate person. But arbitrators who only work in elder and adult care as an arbitrator. And they can make a determination for them on maybe one item. So how do you measure success in elder and adult care mediation? Since every family has their own understanding, they have their own way of doing things. So can you be sure that you're helping this family or that family? Well, there are ways of measuring it, and this is their dispute. And if they feel involved and they all feel they have a role in the solution, it often is a good feeling of uh, success. And I've had people come into these elder and adult care mediations. They don't want to come. Somebody's called me and they said, well, we want to do the mediation. And one of the siblings said, I'm not coming. This is crazy. This is stupid. I don't want to be bothered. But they always show up because they don't want to be the one not there. So when they show up, and now we can do it also with a hybrid of a Zoom, we can have some people in person, and not everybody's always in person anymore. As you know, people live all over the place. So there's some of the children might live near their parents. Some people might live across the country from their parent. But they can still have solutions, and they can still be part of the process to help it to move forward. And so what we look for is to have a consensus, not to have a vote. And you want to try to convene for conflict assessment. You do want all the parties there. And if they can only come on Zoom, that's fine. But the object is, and I've never really had one that everybody hasn't been there. Once they know that their siblings are coming, they all show up. But what I have had are people trying to set up a mediation for the elder adult care and not letting us know that there are other siblings. That's something that's a little off-putting. And in those cases, I won't even take the case. I've told them I'm sorry, because I can see a dishonesty. And I had one family that had approached, and their mother, they said, had already died, and they were just trying to resolve the house and the estate. Come to find out, she was still in a nursing home down the street. Yeah. And that I told them I thought they just needed lawyers at that point. That those aren't clients that you want to deal with. That's not honest. And also think of the heart of mediation. And I like this. I've written an article for one of the textbooks on this. But heart, when you say heart, and I like to say that to families, everybody, they kind of laugh and Everybody likes a heart, and everybody's got a heart, and they can relate to it. But when you spell it for them, you've got hear, you've got ear, as well as heart. And you can even see at a mediation sometimes, especially in these elder and adult care mediations, how it's affecting the senior, how it might be affecting the siblings. Somebody keeps touching their head, that's kind of cerebral. You can see people holding their throat. They feel like they're choking, or they put their hands on their heart, or their hands are on their stomach, and they don't realize it, but they touch the area where they feel that the scenario that's being conversed is affecting them. And so these are tips for the mediator to help them bring out what it is that they're feeling, perhaps, so they can share that information, which maybe they wouldn't have otherwise, but they're contained with it. And you want to have an agenda and to find out what people do need to speak about, what's important to them. And you build a consensus. Can everybody live with this? And if not, what would make it more, how would you modify it, or what suggestions would you like? And you ask everybody, you give everybody a chance. Because there are some people sometimes that don't speak up. They have it in their head and they don't want to rock the boat. But when given license to participate, they do, and it works out very well. And again, we said we avoid taking a vote. How many want this? How many? Nah, this is a family. These are people that you want them to have a relationship tomorrow, and you want them to feel satisfied. So these are some of the other arrows in the quiver. Co-mediation, I find that very effective whenever, even divorce cases, have a co-mediator. A man and a woman often works very nicely. I have married couples that come in, they mediate together. I think that's a great model. And invite experts. When I know that their housing is going to be an issue, I would bring in and ask them to take care of having a person that can tell them as an expert what the housing scene is in that area, cost, availability, what they're looking for. Is it a continuum of care? Is it assisted living? What does the assisted living look like? Do they get meds or have help taking a shower? And what the costs are. People get very nervous about cost. We have one client we're working with now. Sometimes they come more than once because sometimes they need a little bit more work. But she bought her house, paid, I don't know, 30,000 for it, upper 30s, 2-level, a nice garage, a lot of land, very, very good location. The house now is worth over $1.5 million. She has no idea, nor does she want to even look to find out what the cost is. Maybe she's looked with one eye, but she's afraid even at $1.5 million, she's not going to have enough money to go into assisted living. She is putting a pot in her closet downstairs to go to the bathroom because she can't go up and down the stairs where the bathroom is upstairs where the bedroom is. It doesn't make any sense. And the children are afraid she's going to break her neck falling down the stairs. And I am too. But you can't push somebody, but you need to help them realize. So our meeting now is set up for her to meet with a realtor to hear this, and a financial planner who can, and they do it in front of everybody. So there's complete transparency. Someone's not meeting separately and then they're meeting with this one, that. Everything is said, so everybody's on the same page with transparency. And then if they have to, the children or the people at the table, and sometimes it's the grandchildren, it's not even their children. The grandchildren might be closer to the senior, or it might be a neighbor, or it could be a minister of the church. So whoever's at the table is what's important. That they might even form subcommittees. We had one where the father didn't know anybody, hadn't known anybody for 6 years, was on dialysis, but his will stated he never wanted to be kept alive with extraordinary, heroic opportunity, terms. And so the decision was they would honor it and look for hospice and the family divided themselves. They would each investigate different hospice and then come back and have a conversation. And I didn't need to be there. At that point, they had gotten the flow of how to put together their conversation with each other that they hadn't. They've been talking to each other with Post-it notes for years. And all of a sudden now they were talking to each other. And that was a big move. And all they needed was the one-shot deal. We mediated for about 6 hours. And but they were ready. They were talking to each other, and that was the breakthrough. And they could make their future plans. And sometimes we caucus, sometimes we don't. Sometimes families have wanted it at their home, which is fine with me, or I'll go to assisted living. They always have a room where you can have privacy for the family to have a conversation. Or sometimes one time I did it, and I know so of other people that is their model, that they even use a place and they'll have a family retreat. It'll be the cottages or like a camp that's off season, and they have a church retreat area, and they'll make a retreat and make that a whole weekend to do their mediation for the elder and adult care. And that works for the family. So I hope you've enjoyed a little bit. Natalie, if you want to, wait a minute, here we go. It's giving me a stop share. I hope that gave you a little opportunity to think about elder and adult care if you've never done that before. It's another form of family. It's a wonderful form of family. It's also a good marketing tool because they do have senior fairs and places where people can find out about resources. And you're one of the best resources they could have is an elder and adult care mediator. And we say adult care, and I don't think I emphasize that. I've had people in their 40s and 50s who maybe have had strokes and are like a senior because of their restrictions of physical or mental ability or disability. So that's the important part. So Natalie, I don't know, or Jean, do I have time for a couple of questions, or what is your format?
Oh, Jean, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to be respectful by going mute while you're talking. What a presentation. Thank you so much. We're really at the top of the hour. But Natalie, would you have a couple of minutes to be able to stay on? I wouldn't have more than that myself.
I'm absolutely happy to stay if people have
Okay.
questions, and I've put Dr. Manousso's contact and website in the chat. And I know that she's very amenable to people reaching out, asking questions, and learning more.
She has an amazing website. And so a couple of questions that are in the chat. Doctor, one of them in here is, how difficult is it to get families into mediation pre-litigation?
It all depends on the family. But I think the market for elder and adult care is usually going to be a family who is educated, number one, who is used to resources. They have a financial planner. They use a CPA. They're used to using tools that'll help them move their family forward in a very comfortable way. Sometimes people need elder and adult care mediators if they're on the very low end and they're looking for an advocate, but that would be more of an attorney than it would actually be a conversation for mediation. But the market is probably the middle to up of education and financial stability to move forward.
And if
To be honest, huh?
And if people are in litigation in the probate courts, many probate courts have mediators. I know here in Los Angeles they do. And so that's a source for help, but also as mediators, for any of us who are looking to do that kind of work, that's also an option. I'm sure some of it's volunteer, but that's an option.
And Jean, I want to mention, yes, and thank you. I didn't emphasize that. The probate courts here look for people who have training in elder and adult care mediation, so they can handle the diverse dynamics that are in families, that are often the parties that hit probation. And they're not things that are always cut and dry for a judge to swing his mallet. So
Right. And then someone asked here, Linda did, you mentioned the MSA is legally binding.
yes.
That's isn't her experience, I guess, in New Jersey. And she asked if you could elaborate on that. How is it binding, or what makes it binding? I just that it's a contract.
Well, I find it odd. A mediated settlement agreement by the standards of ABA or most states, that's the result of a mediation, is a legally binding contract. And in Texas, we also have to write on all family cases after, you have your MSA, that this agreement is binding and not subject to revocation. Has to be in bold print, underlined, and caps, that
Okay.
on every page of the agreement. So the end result, and people know they're coming into the mediation to have a legally binding contract, which is the MSA. And some days they used to call it the MOU, but they don't call it an MOU now, because it is a contract and it gives it more of a definition.
Well, maybe that's a distinction, a memorandum of understanding versus a mediated settlement agreement, because that's what the SA stands for, right? Settlement agreement.
Yes, but the MOU was also a legally binding contract. But they use the term less now, and it's MSA. So I'd be surprised if it's not. You don't want to go through a 6-hour session. People have paid you to participate, and then they can go home and not have any water in the bowl. You want to make sure that they have a resolution and a solution to work forward with.
It's not just a plan, it's an agreement.
It's not a play date. It's not a play date. It's a serious program.
Okay. Well, we have time maybe for one more question. Did anybody want to raise your hand and ask a question? Otherwise, it's been a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you. I don't see any hands. So other than applauding, and thank you so much. Your website information is in the chat several times, and your website is fascinating. I love all the videos and the podcasts and things that you've done. So we've just heard from a master, and something that we hope that we won't need, but maybe and probably we will at some point, because
just once in your life.
And if we have children, they have parents, i.e. us. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. And the food bank that Dr. Manousso said is the Rhode Island Food Bank, and Natalie has put that link in the chat too. So thank you all. See you next week, same time, same place, different Zoom link. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.